The Florida Panthers find themselves in an unfamiliar position defending a Stanley Cup title. Armando Velez is here to talk about what it'll take to get that done and the offseason for the Panthers. All that and more on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here, and welcome everybody to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as the playoffs have now in our rearview mirror. Well, there are fewer games than we'd like, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show Armando Velez, the host of Locked On Florida Panthers, a man who has not stopped smiling since the Panthers won their first Stanley Cup. Can't believe it's already about 6 weeks ago. But Mondo, man, how are you doing? How has this celebration of this first championship been in South Florida?
It's been great. And it's still crazy when you think of 32 teams in the NHL now and you think of 30 years of history for the Florida Panthers. I never thought I would ever utter the words, the Florida Panthers have won the Stanley Cup. But even sometimes when I wake up, I have to constantly remind myself, oh, wait, it actually did happen. And then sometimes refreshing the Twitter feed and still seeing the tours of the Cup, which just made its way back to North America, which Evan Rodriguez just got his day with the Cup too at Boston University. So, it's still very much exciting that the fact that they are Stanley Cup champions. And hey, can't wait for another season to see if they can do it again.
What has this meant to hockey in South Florida? I know it's early to sort of tell the impact, but what's the vibe?
It's for the Panthers, it's everything. The vibe is everything. I mean, you see think about it. I mean, just going to our local Publix. I mean, if we were like, you didn't see as many people in Panthers gears years ago, and now you'll see it like here and there for the Panthers. I mean, even the billboards. Congratulations to the Florida Panthers winning the Stanley Cup. I mean, the town, the region is just so bought into this team. And I mean, you think about, but it's even everything just leading up to it with a new practice facility for the team, even just the trades prior to it, and just knocking on the door consistently. And the thing is with South Florida in a state that multiple people from multiple states come and move, and they have their allegiances with their other teams. You really got to sell your product to the people of South Florida. And it's just not winning 1 year. It's just being in the dance multiple years and giving yourself an opportunity. All you want is a shot. And the fact that the Panthers have given themselves a shot over and over again, it made it even exciting even before winning. And then obviously the end goal of finally achieving it, it just really opened the door wide open for how much this game could really grow here.
Now, obviously, when you win a championship, it's hard to keep the team together. We knew some players were going to depart, and we've seen that a little bit this offseason. Vladimir Tarasenko no longer with the team. But to me, the two bigger ones were Brandon Montour and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Talk to me about those players departing and what impact it's going to have on this team.
It's so crazy because even going into Game 7 when they had a 3-0 lead and then lost 3 straight, I said changes are going to come one way or the other. How do you want to be remembered? And thankfully for both of them being remembered as Stanley Cup champions. And you think about just Oliver Ekman-Larsson's story, being traded from Arizona, top first round pick, a captain, and then all the injuries that he dealt with in Vancouver. He had more goals in 1 year with the Panthers than he did in his 2 seasons in Vancouver. I know that's not what his assignment is mostly to. His is most like more to be a power play quarterback and even contribute as far as breaking it out of the zone for OEL. But just a story for him on his own personal redemption on getting to the Stanley Cup. It's great for him. Obviously, he was a stopgap. That was always going to be the case for him. And then he was going to get his big payday because of the fact that he's still getting paid by both Utah, and Vancouver. But for Brandon Montour, just the fact that the Panthers gave a third-round pick to Buffalo at the time, and then really his game truly started to explode really when the coaching change happened with Paul Maurice coming into the mix. He had the most points by a defenseman in Florida Panthers history in 2023. Obviously dealt with the injuries coming into the 2024 season, but was able to still catch up and still contribute to the Panthers. I mean, listen, when you win and you're constantly paying guys and also giving up draft capital, the bill does come due for the team. And right now, with them and their priorities of locking guys up like a Sam Reinhart, like they did recently, Anton Lundell too, for them. A few guys were gonna be end up missing out, and unfortunately for Brandon Montour and OEL, they were the guys to do so. But they so deserved their paydays. I also want to mention that.
No question about that. So how do you replace these players? What have the Panthers done to add this year offseason?
Yeah, for the Panthers, it's funny because they were able to bring in Nate Schmidt, who came over from Columbus for the Panthers, and there was a lot of excitement even in his opening press conference for him. And just the excitement for him, came from Winnipeg, someone who worked under Paul Maurice before, and just the fact that he took a league minimum deal for him, and looks like that he's going to be challenging for power play one for the Panthers, because I mean, going back to Brandon Montour and Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Brandon Montour is taken off of power play one and replaced by OEL later in the series. Now both of them are gone, so someone needs to replace them. The Panthers did extend Gustav Forsling at the trade deadline, so maybe he's a candidate to replace on power play one too. He's gonna have something to say about it. Nate Schmidt. Adam Boquist as well for him, who came from Columbus, who's worked under Bill Zito before. So there's also that opportunity for the Florida Panthers to get guys and to acclimate them into this for the Panthers. And also I also wanted to mention another big loss, and I think this one is probably the big loss that nobody is talking about, and it's Kevin Stenlund, who signed a 2-year deal with the Utah Hockey Club, and he was a fourth line center, really key in on faceoffs. The top unit when it came to penalty killing too. That was a big underrated part of the Panthers' overall game as far as their defensive structure and their low scoring games and their ability to keep kill penalties. The Panthers were number one in the league in road penalty kill in the regular season too. So, and that's a big part of Kevin Stenlund, and they replaced them with a guy like Tomáš Nosek too. So that they're hoping to get that replacement there for the Panthers there in their lineup too. And they're also taking gambles on guys on the lineup who are now in their second year in the system, in Mackie Samoskevich, who's a first-round pick from the 2021 draft. And thankfully for the Panthers, they're not going to be so desperate for when it comes to buying in the trade deadline. And for when it comes to getting guys for rentals, which looks like that's going to be the thing to beef up their lineup a little bit, they're not going to be so desperate in trading a top prospect. So Mackie Samoskevich is also going to develop with the Panthers, and he's going to be given some time. He could be on the first line, he could be on the third. But also, if he's on the first, Sam Reinhart has some experience with Anton Lundell going back to 2 seasons ago, too. So there's also familiarity there if you want to give Mackie Samoskevich some time with Alexander Barkov, too. And there's familiarity there. And also for the Panthers, there's questions on what's coming up next for their next offseason, because Carter Hagee is going to be up for a contract, Sam Bennett, Aaron Ekblad, too. And for the Panthers, if they carry Spencer Knight on the roster based on his cap hit, the Panthers are only going to be able to have 22 players on their roster too. And they brought back Chris Drieger too, who's looking to be their third goaltender. So the Panthers are going to be up against the cap. maybe very similarly to 2022-23. But this is what happens when you go all in when it comes to winning, and you want to pay the guys. The cap hit for Anton Lundell is a little high in the first few years, but that 6-year deal throughout that is to eventually get him to C. So it looks like after this year that Sam Bennett is going to be the odd man out for the Florida Panthers. So, but the Panthers have a lot of trust in Anton Lundell, who really grew his game over the last few years. And for the Panthers, they still have their core locked up. 6 more years of Tkachuk, 6 more years of Barkov, 8 more years of Reinhart, 6 more at least of Anton Lundell, who's still 22 years old. And they still have an opportunity to, when things get freed up later on, when Bobrovsky's contract expires in 2 years.
Yeah, we'll see how this plays out. Armando, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners how they can find the podcast and where they can find you on social media?
They can find me personally on Twitter at Monoman12. They can follow the show account on X at @LO_FLA Panthers and on Instagram as well at @LO_FLA Panthers. And thankfully, this summer for me is easier to swallow with the baseball team going on in South Florida due to the fact that the Florida Panthers are Stanley Cup champions.
All right, Armando, thanks so much.
Thank you as always, Gil.
Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much I never want them to stop. But with the Stanley Cup playoffs and the NBA playoffs far in our rearview mirror, we have fewer games. And the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. And all I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. And look, Major League Baseball in full swing. You have preseason football going on, football futures, hockey futures. Check out all of the odds at FanDuel. Head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. That's FanDuel.com, FanDuel official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.